Good morning and welcome to another episode of Cities with John. I'm John Harper and I am just thrilled to have you along for the ride. And we are continuing on this industrial island and my new map. It's not really a new map. I've been working on it for a couple months, but working on this industrial island, and this area here is a great place, natural resource wise, for the forest industry. So, the forest industry, I tried to do some of that over on the original island. Now that I have the industry's downloadable content, there's a lot of options to use, and I think a lot of this is very it has some great assets. Great looking buildings are involved with it. I was kind of looking through it when I was doing the oil industrial area. So I wanted to do a forest area over here, and I also thought it would ultimately tie in to having a heavy residential area surrounding it. These buildings don't put out as much pollution as the oil buildings. So the idea was on the outside edge of this to eventually add some buildings. So this will be part one of a uh, series of videos for the forest area and kind of learning the forest downloadable content all at the same time. I have absolutely no experience with the industry's downloadable content pack, so I was kind of learning it and trying to see how it all worked. And I do get a little, there is some points where I'm a little confused on exactly why some certain things, well, I won't talk about it right now, but we'll see it here in a little while. So first things first, kind of throwing out a road grid for this area. If you haven't noticed already, I'm not a big fan of just doing straight square grids. I like to have things to be a little unusual looking, not perfectly straight roads. Roads that connect, lots of going in, going out areas. But I don't really like having things just so perfectly gridded, and I figured I would save some of that for when I do another area of this map that would be considered like the old part of town. But for these areas, these are newer built areas. Um, they're not areas that have been around for forever. This is kind of a newer built area, so it's going to have some roads that are not just perfectly straight, as you can see. And I think that works out just fine. It doesn't bother me one bit. So one thing I will advise you with industry road, really with all your road making that you do, especially if you're doing a detailed style map and you're not worried about money, you're not really playing the game as the actual game, you're just uh, playing it as a detailer is, you cannot have enough roads that, how do I say this? You can have too many roads where traffic ends up getting on top of itself, more or less. It's just they come out of an intersection and they go into another intersection, and it's just like they can't ever get going. But at the same time, you have to have a decent amount of roads getting in and out of your main industrial areas, and especially this, because this is connected directly to the cargo port to the right there. So, I didn't want to have a new area start and have so many trucks coming in and out without a good way to get over to the cargo area, and that's why I ran that overpass that basically serves a purpose of bypassing a lot of the regular roads, so trucks can get back and forth to the cargo hub without much traffic issues. Now with this forest pack, very similar to oil, you have to have a place that makes the raw material. So those are what those tree yards that are kind of flickering like Christmas lights right now. Those were what the tree yards are. I put those on top of the dark green area, which is forestry in the game. So all that makes perfect sense. But one thing I do find out is it's either that it ran out of the resource or something, because eventually little messages start popping up that I don't have those trees on top of the right resource, which ultimately leads to me this area not being anywhere close to as structured looking as I was kind of hoping. Of course, I just said I don't like it to be too straightforward looking, and I definitely got my wish, and you'll see that here momentarily. But throwing in these tree fields is where the raw materials are produced for the forestry, and then the forestry ultimately you can do, like, you can have a furniture where a furniture building center that actually makes furniture. There's other things that kind of tie in to the forestry, but the way that I'm starting to figure out this in industries, the way that it works is oil and ore and forestry and the farming and all that stuff kind of ties in together um, to make one big industry unit, I guess you could say. So they all kind of come in together, and it ends up. It looks like it's going to end up being really cool, because once it's all said and done, especially if you're playing this game um, without with the money, unlimited money turned off, I mean, you can make a killing on all these industries packed in. But kind of my idea though was kind of having a green friendly area, an area that's a little bit more uh, uh, earth conscious, I guess you would say. So one thing that I eventually do want to do with this area is have lots of uh, outdoor plazas, parks, uh, biking areas, and things like that. So that's something that I will be adding once I get to the point of doing the uh, residential areas. So here I'm just trying to add on some of the additional forestry buildings and kind of running out of room. Sometimes you can get buildings slipped up underneath those interstates, but for some reason it wasn't letting me do that, so I decided to continue to expand outward um, this direction, which is fine. I got plenty of room. This area that I developed over here with the oil development was the first area of this island area, so everything, I guess you would say, in the forefront, kind of behind the position I'm in, is just blank canvas right now, and I can go as far as I want. I excuse me. I didn't really want to make this island the downtown area. It kind of would have been cool to have an island of just like the heavy population center of the map, but the idea of this map overall is just spread out suburban. I'm not trying to make it to 900,000 sims, I'm not trying to overpopulate this map. First map I ever did, I got all the way up to 450,000, and famously or infamously, I screwed up my hard drive and lost my map. So, right there are the barracks, the worker barracks. That adds a bit of boost to production. So there you have it, kind of a overview of it. And as you can tell, I had to spread out a lot of those tree fields because they just weren't producing the raw materials like they were supposed to. Even though those lots were on top of the dark green, it didn't work. So I'm not really sure why that happened. But, oh well. It turned out okay and still kind of spread out. But those squares kind of allow me to do other things, which I'm about to do, like the sawdust production center, maintenance buildings, and things of that nature. And pretty soon, making the storage buildings for all of this area as well. So looking through these warehouses, I didn't realize that some of the warehouses I had been downloading were actually just kind of part of the industry's pack that people had, I don't know, ripped off more or less. But using the industry warehouses here, the ones that are actually made for the game, and these are really cool looking warehouses. Um, and what these do is they allow you to store whatever product. So if you want to store the forestry stuff, you can store the forestry stuff. But you can also store stuff that go along with your forestry stuff. As you can see, scrolling through, I put all these on zoned forestry products, but you can put them on whatever you want. I don't know why you would put them on something that wasn't. I mean, you wouldn't want to put your zoned oil storage here, I wouldn't think. So we made all these forestry and started building up some storage areas for all this to happen. But as you can see, immediately tons of traffic starting to come in here, and it really starts getting crowded. So over here I have an area that is also kind of dark green, be better for forestry. And since I figured out, or didn't really figure out, but since I realized that apparently the area that I did put some of those tree farms on wasn't working, I decided to kind of expand it out, make just like a little area over here just to kind of offset some of those losses, because I did want to. I'm kind of playing this game. I don't know, I'm doing it a little bit differently. I I do kind of miss some of the budget and things of just playing the game regularly and doing all that. So there's certain things that I keep on, like garbage disposal, police and fire, all that kind of stuff I still pay attention to. I've got the building abandonment turned off, so I'm not going to ever lose any houses. But at the same time, I do like to kind of make sure that I've got the right services and stuff, because I don't know, that just kind of adds to the fun of the game. But ultimately, I'm just doing this to design and have fun and just do designing stuff. So here, just kind of throwing in these small farm, tree farm areas, and trying to give truckers a way to get in and out of this thing without running into each other. Very, very tight area here, but eventually I kind of get it going here. And I know, you might be saying, well, it's just kind of random having that little area over there, but I think that that's how a lot of industrial areas are. They kind of utilize space, especially like in cities and especially around a lot of rails and stuff like that. And I might expand off into the distance there with this road eventually, but you'll have these like little, go down this narrow road and you find a second little industrial area to the side, and that's kind of what I was going with here. Um, so adding in the area over there allowed me to have some raw materials. There's a good little shot of how everything worked out together. And the next thing I'm going to do is kind of add a little bit of commercial stuff over here. The people working at that factory there and around this area are going to need a convenience store, some sort of place to go to get some gas and feed their nicotine addictions. So I thought, since I was using Shell as my oil production company, I would use a different brand for my convenience store over here. Here I'm just kind of doing some tightening up and making sure everything looks right. I was really not exactly thrilled with that road, and I wanted to make a parking lot in front, one of these side parking lots on the road, but then I realized there's parking spots on the front side of that building, and that just kind of looks funny, so I decided not to do that. And I've been downloading a lot of roads, and there's a lot of interesting industry roads that are huge that I've got to kind of like figure out exactly what kind of purpose they serve, and that's kind of what you saw there. But anyway, back to this convenience station. The one thing that with when you install these like gas stations and like corner markets and stuff, you always end up making another entrance, and it sometimes can be a bit of a pain because it can really hurt the traffic. So first thing I thought was, well, instead of doing that, I'll throw in some office space that would kind of tie in to this factory here, this forest industry factory. But I really didn't find a building that I felt like tied in, and I didn't really go through all of them. There, I even type in forest to see if something was to pop up. I like that building right there, but it's kind of like a Japanese look, and it was more of a commercial look. So I was trying to find something that would tie in, and then I finally settled on just the convenience store aspect. So I about dropped the shell, but instead I decided to go way back to one of my first industry areas on the other side of the map, and using Move It, just copying and pasting this BP, and then just kind of editing it from there. So one thing with this BP that never got fixed over on the other part of the map, which I got to go back and fix, is the actual convenience store itself. Didn't really have like a road connected to it. So I moved the convenience store itself up to the front here, as you can see. And then it was just kind of all about tweaking and figuring out where I wanted to put the different props and finishing touches on this thing. But as you're going to see pretty soon, I get a little carried away. Now, the one thing that will happen when you use Move It is it doesn't always adjust the terrain correctly. And as you can see, it kind of stuck those into the ground. So I had to kind of readjust them, take a good look at it. I was having trouble with that sign, so just got rid of the sign. And but this, I think, serves a great purpose. People can come in and get gas and all that, but they can also just walk down here from their on their lunch break and grab some snacks and things like that. So, as you can see, traffic really starting to build up around this area. I wanted to make this as convenient as possible for people to get in and out of. So, wanting to connect a sidewalk over, making this just kind of part of the corner. But soon I realized, and soon you'll see, that it just was a little too crunched up there at the end, and I also felt like it didn't really look right. Very rarely do you see a convenience store that's like to the right like that. It's usually in behind. So I kind of started brainstorming and trying to figure out what to do, and ultimately I was trying to avoid making an entrance because being this close to an intersection and having another entrance, you're just asking for it as far as traffic problems. But I haven't made that decision just yet. Trying to figure out how to cover up these patches where the difference in coloring with the surface painter and the sidewalk and all this stuff just making little annoying little glitches for me. I think that's ultimately what led to me kind of redoing this little area. So last night when I was recording this footage and making this area, I didn't really realize how long these videos were going on. So I just kind of basically recorded, I guess you could say, part 1, 2, and 3 in one night. And luckily I didn't fill up my hard drive doing it. So this video alone, I believe, is like, I don't know, I want to say 13 or 14 gigabytes or so. See that van right there just cut over the curb? What's wrong with these people? So now that I have that road right there, that allows me to move my BP convenience center over. And now it is connected to a road, and that looks a lot better, I thought. So just to kind of do a little fast forward on this, I felt like that corner needed something, and there really wasn't any, so far, any restaurants over here of any type. So I thought, this would be a great place to add something else with that road, and voila, we have an In-N-Out burger. So I think the gas station area turned out just about as perfect as I wanted it to. And here I'm just kind of detailing. I didn't record the actual building of the In-N-Out burger, but you'll see some detailing that I'm about to do on it as well. So here I'm just using these trees that I haven't used too much of in this map. They're very, for lack of a better term, very fancy trees. And I think they really look good with businesses and landscaping setups. And so that's why I decided to use them here. These roads that go around here that actually have room for parking spots work perfect for fast food restaurant setups. And really with fast food, the main thing is just detailing it out as much as you can and evening everything out, adding the little things like I'm doing here, like the arrow decals. Otherwise, you just build it like you would almost like a roundabout, but you just have to use those parking lot roads. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It will work. It just looks really strange. So lots of cool drive-through assets to use. And the good thing is once you set this up, let's say you wanted to put an In-N-Out burger somewhere else, using Move It, you can just copy and paste everything and not have to go through all these little details that I'm doing right now. As you can see, I put a do not enter sign there in the background. Um, and eventually I'll come back and fix that little node issue with the grass. But um, traffic is only to be coming around that backside if they're just parking or exiting. So it gives people a way to drive through there and come back around, or they can go through the drive-through there. So there's not um, it's not a thing where you kind of get stuck in there unrealistically. There's plenty of ways to get out of the fast food area. Here I'm installing the sign. It's a great looking sign, real big, impactful, perfect for a corner, and adding a little bit of detail on this as well. If you didn't know this, In-N-Out Burger, mostly on the west coast of America, and they have like a secret menu. So they have their regular menu, which is very, very simple. There's like not, they don't have many options on there because I mean it's pretty straightforward. It's a burger place, really good burgers. They have a secret menu where they um, have like different types of burgers with different toppings that are I don't want to say weird, but weird combinations of stuff. And I ate at one when I was out in California at one point. They're really good, but none in Kentucky. So maybe we'll get one day. We do have Five Guys Burger and Fries, which is good, and a couple other burger places, of course. So here I decided to just change that road up, get rid of the little median. I think it looks better right there anyway because traffic's going to be coming in and out of there at a fever pace. So, but I think this turned out pretty good. I'm not going to add too much more small commercial stuff right now over here. Um, the main thing that I kind of want to do is start getting to kind of go along with what I was saying about playing this game like halfway detail and halfway for real. Is, I don't have anybody working in any of these places hardly, and the demand, as you see at the bottom in that little green bar, the demand right now for residential is super high. So I've got to get some people over here, and I don't really have room to make small, neighborhoods and suburbs. So, I mean, I do on the other side of this, but not really like in front of it. And I kind of wanted to have something closer to this area here and something where they could access the roads to get over to the oil refineries and the Shell corporate office and all that. So I downloaded these hedges. It's a new hedge for me anyway, that look a little bit more realistic. I think they look fantastic. And I was just trying to find a way to make this look like an area where maybe like employees come out on their break or something and hang out, but also a place that keeps a couple of dumpsters where they're not really seen by uh, people that go through the drive-through. I've got the little dumpster area on the other side of this BP, but I decided just to leave that, let it be, and then make this area like a place for the dumpsters and maybe just kind of like a little area to hang out when you're on break from the convenience store or on break from Five Guys, In-N-Out Burger. Now I got burgers in my mind. So I kind of redid the hedges here, screwed that one up, which I go back and fix here in a second. Um, but those hedges look really good, and they look more realistic, I'd say. Um, and this kind of, having this big factory next door, literally right next door, you see the fence for it. You could say, well, it's kind of like really close, and why would anybody want to sit out there? But, maybe they don't want to sit out there, but not the point. It's just trying to give a little bit of a blockade to the factory. So yeah, I think this turned out pretty good. As always, if you enjoyed watching my video today, I encourage you to hit the like button or subscribe. I don't have many people viewing my videos, and that's fine. I'm just kind of having fun with it. I'm not really like in this to be a millionaire or something like that, or do real research on buildings. I'm just enjoying what I'm doing. I think this really turned out well, and I'm very pleased with this area so far. And next video, we're going to be making some industrial area. It's going to look really cool. So thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.